Good morning, sir. We're Group 1, and these are the members of the group. Jano, Montenegro, Eleto, Tinio, Nemenzo, and lastly, your one and only, Rosatace. The main objective of this group report is to present different Greek philosophers and to share with you on how they contribute or help us individuals. Our leader Jano let each members of the group choose a philosopher of their liking and present how that philosopher contributes to us individuals.
Hello and good day. My name is John Leo Ihano, and I am the leader of Group 1. Today, we're going to be talking about the Greek ancient triumvirate. The word triumvirate refers to the three greatest founding fathers of philosophy. The trio consists of Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato. Laid the fundamental ideas of Western philosophy. They help us contemplate and theorize about many different ideas, such as human nature, ethics, and moral dilemmas. Example for this is a method from Socrates, where a method of seeking truth through a series of questions and answers. This method of teaching by question and answer approach is known as the Socratic method. The Socratic method is essential to all of us, especially students, because students can learn through the use of critical thinking, reasoning, and logic. This technique involves in finding holes in their own theories and patching them up. Like this kind of method is used everywhere. For example, later where a Q&A session is needed and the presenter responds to the questions and clarifications about the topic that they are explaining about. It also helps us by understanding oneself while enabling us to manage and improve ourselves to attain a better quality of life. Socrates' greatest contribution were to focus on teaching the techniques of rational thought and to emphasize the importance of questioning dogma and authority. Contrary to the opinion of the masses, one's true self, according to Socrates, is not to be identified with that we own, with our social status, our reputation, or even with our body. Instead, Socrates famously maintained that our true self is our soul. Thank you for listening, and I hope you've learned something today, and I'm going to pass this on to the next presenter.
Hi, good day everyone. My name is Jayson Nemenzo. I'm here to discuss about Plato. Plato carved out subject matter in philosophy by the formulating and discussing a wide range of metaphysical and ethical questions. To explain the similarities and resemblances among the object of the physical world, he developed a metaphysics of form. His view about the ethical questions could be grounded in his metaphysics of form via the contemplation of the form of the good. So, Plato therefore found an inherent connection between the metaphysics and ethics. His greatest work, The Republic, developed an insightful analogy between the harmony in the state of harmony in the individual and is often considered one of the greatest works ever written. So, Plato worked dialogies that considered the nature of virtue in itself, as well as the nature of particular virtues. He also considered the epistemological questions such as whether knowledge is justified through belief. So Plato emphasizes on the health of healthy environment for children. He insists that the atmosphere must plant the ideas through goodness in children. So Plato founded the academy and considered to the first Western university. So Plato has created many philosophies and ideas that still look today. The contemporary approaches and education and the concept intellectual virtue. So problem solving and intellectual characters educations. Learning through problem solving. So Plato's theory of education has much to teach about the intellectual character education today. So the Platonic intellectual program does not advocate to direct to transmission of knowledge from the teacher learners but rather focus on building to learners to systemic to dispositions building upon the Socrates method. So Plato's educational program does not spoon-feed knowledge to the learners but rather fosters the growth of intellectual virtue through the problem solving. That's all. Thank you.
Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. A quote said by a famous philosopher who we all know by the name Aristotle. Good day everyone, I'm Ronan Tinio, and I will take you back to the time where his contribution have greatly affected not only in the past but today. Aristotle's contribution have arguably been more influential, particularly when it comes to science and logical reasoning. So how did Aristotle contribute to ancient Greece? He made pioneering contribution to all fields of philosophy and science. He invented the field of formal logic, and he identified the various scientific disciplines and explored their relationship to each other. Aristotle was also a teacher and founded his own school in Athens known as the Lyceum. What contribution did Aristotle make to natural philosophy? However, Aristotle made an important point with this idea that forces acting upon objects can either set them in motion or make them tend towards rest. One of Aristotle's most famous ideas of natural philosophy is his addition of the celestial ether to the four natural elements suggested by Empedocles. Aristotle also contributed to mathematics in his attempt to work out theorems about ratios and infinite magnitude. Aristotle makes important mathematical observations about infinite magnitudes and may have been the first to attempt them. What was Aristotle's contribution to the scientific method? Measurement and observation, the foundation upon which is built. He proposed the idea of induction as a tool of gaining knowledge and understood abstract thought and reasoning must be supported by real findings. He also contributed to our subject psychology. Aristotle believed that alongside the libido were id and ego, the idea of desire and reason. Two forces that determine action. Aristotle's psychology proposed that allowing desire to dominate reason would lead to an unhealthy imbalance and the tendency to perform bad actions. Aristotle worked in physics, chemistry, biology, zoology, and botany, in psychology, political theory and ethics, in logic and metaphysics, and in history, literary theory, and rhetoric. He invented the study of formal logic, devising for its finished system, known as syllogistic, that was considered the sum of the discipline until the 19th century. His work in zoology, both observational and theoretical, also was not surpassed until the 19th century. He takes psychology to be the branch of science which investigates the soul in its properties, but he thinks of the soul as a general principle of life, with the result that Aristotle's psychology studies all living beings and not merely those he regards as having minds, human beings. That's all, and thank you for listening.
Good day, I'm your presenter about St. Augustine's medieval philosophy. By the way, to introduce myself, I am Cadet Montenegro. Here's my presentation outline. Introduction, contribution to philosophy of Christianism. To proceed, let me start with a brief background of Saint Augustine. We all know that he is a saint. Also, he was a theologian and a great philosopher. Here's a short video clip and continuation about Saint Augustine.
Augustine was a Christian philosopher who lived in the 4th and 5th century AD on the fringes of the rapidly declining Roman Empire in the North African town of Hippo. He served as bishop for 35 years, proving popular and inspirational to his largely uneducated and poor congregation. In his last days, a Germanic tribe known as the Vandals burnt Hippo to the ground, destroyed the legions, made off with the town's young women, but left Augustine's cathedral and library entirely untouched out of respect for the elderly philosopher's achievements. He matters to us non-Christians today because of what he criticized about Rome, its values and its outlook, and because Rome has so many things in common with the modern West, especially...
Okay, that's 1 minute. What is medieval philosophy? Medieval philosophy was the historical period from the 4th through the 14th centuries, which was dominated by religious concerns, the study of ancient Greek philosophy, and a need to reconcile rational inquiry with religious faith. It was mainly but not completely limited to the implications of Christian doctrine. Let's proceed with his contribution to philosophy. Saint Augustine made some significant philosophical contributions to the defense of Christian philosophy. One of these is the philosophical dilemma of evil. Until the time of Saint Augustine, philosophers questioned Christians, claimed that evil arises in a world created by a perfectly good God. The problem is simple to comprehend but significantly more difficult to solve. Saint Augustine made several reasonable arguments in an attempt to answer this question. Despite the fact that the problem of evil has been solved for the most part, many people still doubt Saint Augustine's view of the conflict. The problem of evil is intrinsic to grasping the big picture that Christianity has to offer, and as such, it is not easily solved. Augustine attempted to explain evil as the product of an opposing force that exists outside of God's creation and serves as a nemesis to God. Very quickly, Augustine discovered the problem with this solution. Christianity states that God is the sole creator of the world and everything that exists in and outside of it. Obviously, this does offer a little bit of a problem in itself, so Augustine moves on to attempt on another observation. Augustine then attempts to claim with the help of the Platonic theory that evil is not real and therefore was not created by God. Thanks for listening. That's all.
Hi, my name is Michael Jasper Asaleto, and I'm here today to report about Anthony de Mello and his perspective of the self. Now, Anthony de Mello is a renowned psychotherapist and also an Indian priest, but more than that, he has written and published a lot of books, one of which is entitled Awareness. Now, in this book, there's a little part of it that I've taken. There's a story of the disciple who went to the master and said, "Could you give me a word of wisdom? Will you tell me something that would guide me through my days?" It was the master's days of silence, so he picked up a pad and said, "Awareness." When the disciple saw it, he said, "This is too brief. Can you expand on it a bit?" So the master took back the pad and wrote, "Awareness, awareness, awareness." The disciple said, "Yes, but what does it mean?" The master took back the pad and wrote, "Awareness, awareness, awareness means awareness." On this part of the book, and if we continue on reading on the book written by Anthony de Mello, which is Awareness, we'll be able to conclude and understand that Anthony de Mello subscribed to the idea of the self as having two parts, which is the conscious and the unconscious part. But in this book, he refers to it as the aware and the unaware part of ourselves. Okay, this is something that I took from the book entitled Awareness as well. Be aware of what you're saying, be aware of what you're doing, be aware of what you're thinking, be aware of how you're acting, be aware of where you're coming from, be aware of what your motives are. The unaware life is not worth living. The unaware life is mechanical life. It's not human, it's programmed, it's conditioned. This is written by Anthony de Mello. Now in here, we'll be able to understand somewhat of the idea of Anthony de Mello regarding the aware and the unaware part of our lives. The unaware part of our life is, in this paragraph, defined as mechanical life, or not something that's not worth living. That's because Anthony de Mello saw the unaware part of our life as something that we're not in control of, something that we're not aware of, or something that we are oblivious of. Now, while he preached about the bad side of the life of us being unaware, he preached as well about us to be more mindful of ourselves. And he described it as the way for us to be more successful and happy. For when we became aware of who we are, inside and out, when we became mindful of who we really are, we'll be able to gain more control of our lives, leading for us to have a better days, better future, and happier lives. So that's the perspective of Anthony de Mello on the topic of the self. And that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Hello, and this is Jerwen B asking you why it is important understanding the self. Practicing self-awareness is about learning to better understood why you feel, what you feel, and why you behave in a particular way. Having self-awareness gives you the opportunity and freedom to change things about yourself, enabling you to create a life that you want. That is all, and thank you for your listening.
So to sum things up, let's end this group report with a meaningful quote. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest achievement, by Ralph Waldo Emerson. That is all. Thank you for listening.